It's getting very exciting, isn't it? But wait till you hear from the next presentation. And the next presentation is on strengthening research uptake with focus on customer point of view. Ladies and gentlemen, we have none other than an associate professor from the Ashesi University, Professor Gordon Adomza. My brother from another mother. Nice to see you again.
Well, good morning. That was a wonderful panel there. It's hard to come after that panel. I just want to get my slides up and then get started.
Before, Prof, I think I missed a protocol. Still be with me. The panelists should take a picture, please, for the records. Okay. So please, Nana, the two Asamoahs, and CEO, please, Amalate, and Chair, please, come and take a picture for the records. Julius, are you joining? Prof. Andam, please. British Council, please, British High Commission, VC Bolgatanga Technical University. Okay. Gamali, please. Risa. Okay. May I also join? Thank you very much. Thank you. So, Prof, the platform is yours. Strengthening research uptake with focus on customer point of view. Professor Gordon Adomza from the Ashesi University.
Thank you, sir. All right. Okay, so a little bit of context here. I had a discussion with Julius about a program that GRIC does with researchers, which is basically to help them translate the research into actionable format for industry to engage with. I think on the panel, Nana talked about a knowledge gap. The research is there, but industry struggles to engage with the research, and that's one of the problems we have. I'm sure I see some heads nodding, so I'm sure you agree with that. I mean, you know how exciting it is to read research projects, right? A lot of times you read it and you're like, huh? What are they talking about? So GRIC has a program, and they have this template called the Industry Brief Template, which in many ways does a wonderful job of translating the research into a format that the industry partners that I engage with can get excited about. So Julius asked me the question, what else can we add to this list of areas? And I mean, for those of you that I know, you know that I take everything from a design thinking perspective. So I said, well, in design thinking, when we conduct research to come up with products and projects, there's something we call the point of view, which is really where the research gets concentrated and the problem gets defined for what should come next, how the solution should be developed. So maybe we can introduce the concept of a point of view in the research. If you are a researcher and you conduct research using qualitative or quantitative data, you know that in qualitative data research, you have to do thematic analysis and identify these themes that then drive the solution. In design thinking, those themes, we call them a point of view. If you are conducting quantitative research, you would do your descriptive statistics, your inferential statistics, you find your mean, standard deviations, confidence intervals, and you make decisions based on that, right? But when you conduct qualitative research and design thinking research, you don't have the hard data, so the point of view becomes the replacement of those statistics. So Julius and I thought it would be a good idea to share this concept here to drive test it, if you will. So it would be really good to hear what your feedback is. So you can see on this particular GRIC industry brief template, the original title of the research was MLCs for Advanced Glaucoma Diagnosis, a study within the Ghanaian healthcare context. So what this template was trying to do was to retitle it and make it more if the researcher is here, I was going to say to make it more interesting. Automating glaucoma diagnosis using artificial intelligence, right? Something that an industry partner might be more interested in. And then you have the abstract, the key takeaways, the gaps addressed, sector, potential uptake, and then you have the customer point of view. So I'll show you some examples of the customer point of view, but it's made up of 3 key parts. So a clear sense of who the user is that we're solving a problem for, what the actual need is, and what a market insight or an empathy insight is, and before we come to the key recommendations. So like I was saying, this is supposed to be right in the middle. Like I was saying, this is a typical design thinking framework which says that if you have a problem to solve, you're moving from problem to solution. Here is where the point of view is. You conduct ethnographic research, the frame opens because you're collecting data from so many different sources. And then you analyze the data, the frame closes, you come to the point of view, and this is really what drives the solution. So I'll go through some examples. So this is the main frame again. If you're using this approach, you're looking for a clear sense of users' needs and insights. But here is an example. This is an actual project, and some of you might already be familiar with it. So this project was conducted by a group of students from Stanford and Stanford D School, and they were tasked with redesigning the baby incubator, okay, for rural women. So it's a research project. It's just like any research project. And so they went in, spoke to a number of stakeholders, women, and so forth, healthcare practitioners, and they analyzed the data. So using this approach, they came up with what you would call a point of view statement. It's many parts, right? So we said user plus need plus insight. What you see there is only the first 2, user and need. The user is a desperate mother in a rural area. What is the need? They need a baby warming device to save her baby. So user is clear, we know who we're solving a problem for, and the need is a baby warming device. Now, if I ask you, you are part of this team, you're redesigning a baby incubator, and this is the user and this is the need, what comes to mind for a solution? One over here. You almost had your hand up, but you can. Yeah.
I happen to have listened to a very interesting program about baby warming in India, skin-to-skin solution.
Yeah. So you are going way ahead of, you're actually going to destroy my prompt. What comes to mind for a potential solution? I'll come back. Anybody? Yes, please. You can just voice it and I'll repeat it from here.
That's maybe a bag that the baby can be in it, as well as the mother carrying the baby.
Okay.
And can feed the baby as well to keep the baby warm.
So
at the
you
same
also
time.
destroyed my prompt. That's fine. But normally what people will say is a miniature version, right? One that uses solar power and so forth, right? Now let's add the empathy insight. So the empathy insight from the research, this is the unique sort of insight that would have been expressed in very complex research terms, in an abstract or in a paper, is that the solution should be such that it will help her, sort of better survive in her community, which she lives in a community where there is a low cultural acceptance for separating mothers from premature babies. Okay? So if you didn't have this, you will come up with a miniaturized version of an incubator. But with this insight, your solution space has shifted, right? And so then they came up with this solution. It's called Embrace, which I think Henry was pointing to. It's probably one of the most heavily funded baby incubators in the world for rural, for poor, communities. The other interesting thing that happened with this particular incubator is that when they developed it, they were following the data. When they developed it, they realized that they had a problem of keeping it warm. So further research was conducted and they came up with silicone, which can retain heat for about 6 or 7 hours. You can put it on a stove top and heat it in water and put it inside the pouches and it will retain heat for 6 or 7 hours. So what it means is that the insight drove them to go beyond what is currently available, right? To leapfrog the existing technology. But the main point here is that the way the research was presented was action-oriented, right? It was exciting for the different partners to jump on board and make this a reality. So this is a conversation that I was having with Julius. How do we help researchers retell the data in ways that make industry want to come on board? The ways that make industry feel like if they don't come on board, they will miss out. Right? Okay. Kwame, how much longer do I have? 10 minutes? That's good. So we'll do another example. This is another example, but I'll do another one, a different one. So this was also a group of people who was trying to help smallholder farmers improve yields. And so from the research, I mean, you can have 70% of this, the mean was that, standard deviation, whatever. But if you humanize the data in this sense, here is a persona, 50-year-old that they encountered, plants cassava and intercrops with legumes, makes enough to sustain a family of 6, said something very interesting, that my family has always farmed on this land and I need to keep the tradition. So what they encountered was that it didn't matter what the solution was, this person was not going to move from where they lived to go and farm somewhere. To them, they have to farm on the land, irrespective of the nutritional value of the land at the moment. Right? And so if you were on this research project and you came up with some, soil analysis, fertility analysis, some complex pH levels and nitrogenation and all of that, you write all of that up, people read it and you're like, it looks complex, But how can we change that narrative? In many ways, you may be talking. So let's go to the point of view, and then I'll come to that. So Kojo, a smallholder farmer, needs farm implements that improve productivity. So that's the need. Improve productivity on small parcels of land. So that whatever the solution is, it should improve productivity on small parcels of land, because he needs to continue farming on that land to keep the family tradition. So we're not saying that we have to go and educate Kojo on soil fertility. We're saying we need to figure out how we start with his belief and start to introduce a potential solution that could work with his belief, whilst sort of maybe changing his mindset little by little, right? So how about if Kojo doesn't want to come to move away and go and farm elsewhere, how about we bring land to Kojo? Right? He doesn't want to move, so we bring land. Vertical farming, right? It's a vertical farming concept. It may not be very practical, but it's a nice, interesting starting concept that potential industry partners can understand. Instead of complex jargon about soil fertility and pH levels and nitrogenation and all of that stuff. Again, the problem we're trying to solve here is how do we help researchers redefine, retell, reinterpret, translate the complex research they've done in ways that really bring partners on board. There's one example that I took from current projects in GRIC. One of them, I read the brief, and it basically had to do with using what they call it, I think it was a near field infrared spectroscopy connected to a smartphone. And the goal here is to enable people in the field scan cocoa beans and be able to tell where the cocoa beans is coming from, so that they can better classify them, and I guess it will improve on how they connect with partners. So I developed this point of view statement for it. I don't know who the researcher is and whether they would agree with it, but in the brief, they listed a whole number of potential users, right? Which to me just makes it unnecessarily complex. If you don't have a specific user that you can target your concept to, it just makes it harder for you to start with the solution. You speak to a lot of innovators and they say, and you ask who will be able to use it, and they say everybody. No, it's not everybody. Let's start with a very, direct potential user. Once it helps us be it's about action orientedness, right? It helps us get into this action oriented mode, and then we can build from there. So here, my sense of it is that it's a cocoa clerk or some other person who needs to classify beans on the field, cocoa beans, in a rural farm, needs to identify the types of beans with this NR spectroscopy connected to a smartphone that can access a large database of cocoa bean samples. Why? Because accurate farm gate classification of cocoa beans, there's an A missing there, bean grade, ensures efficiency of delivery of the beans by a certain amount, right? So the point here is that it's trying to, it was a long research brief that GRIC had already sort of broken down into chewable chunks, if you will. And so my goal here was to break it down a little further, identify the core points. One, the spectroscopy. Two, connected to a smartphone. Why? Because there's a database that the researcher has developed and curated. Why do we need this? We need this because you need to be able to, if you are able to do this classification on the spot, it does amazing things to how you deliver the cocoa. And that is what a partner wants to know. That's the one thing they want to know. Why do we need to do classification on the spot? So if classification on the spot is not brought out and focused on, then getting industry partners to come on board might be difficult. Right? It might be difficult. So this is what it looks like, the spectroscopy and then the smartphone. You need the smartphone connection to make it happen. So I'll end by going back to what I started with, which is the brief, the GRIC industry brief template, and then point out a few other things that we could improve on. I'm going to talk to Julius about this later. So in the template, you can see that a number of users have been identified. So I would argue that if you have this number of users, it just makes it a bit harder to get partners, right? If you narrow it down, you choose between ophthalmologists and optometrists. One would say, but isn't that limiting yourself? No. If you start with one, it opens up the space for others, right? But if you start with one, it's a lot easier to have conversations with partners. And then you can see the empathy insights that is listed there. I think could also be made a lot easier. So this solution also uses artificial intelligence, similar to the cocoa one. I think it uses a database for detecting glaucoma. But when you look at it again, you will see that the focus is early detection and efficient patient management. So again, when we're talking to partners who need to bring resources, who need to bring technology to make this thing practical, early detection, patient management, just those two things. No complex, complex abstracts with some very fancy language. So yeah, that's what I have for you. So the idea here again is that GRIC is doing a wonderful job in trying to help close that knowledge gap through translation, right? Translating research work, existing research work into forms that industry will be more comfortable about and that will be more engaging, so that industry will be more interested and inspired to come on board. So I'll stop here and would love to hear your thoughts. Maybe you have examples, additional examples you want to add.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So I would like to find out, in your view, or from your experience, who do you think is the best or is the most well-placed to translate all this scientific work into the format that an industry will understand? Is it a scientist who should learn that skill, or there should be another set up somewhere that can be doing this, maybe between, that will stand between the industry and research?
Okay.
Your views.
So I'll let Henry was shaking his head vigorously, so I'll let him start and then I'll add. Oh, no, say to it, because you were like, no. So let's hear from you.
So, to be fair, I think some of the onus should be on industry, because they should be closest to the customer, and it's really the customer that drives the thinking you're helpfully putting out. Unless we know who wants it and why they want it, we're not going far. And often for the scientists, the question is how, and not really who wants it and why. So we actually need a different skill set. I think I agree with that.
Right. Yes, I think scientists and researchers want to create technology based on their expertise and using the how. And so we can train them to be better at translating, but I don't think that's what they want to do. Just want to keep to the science. And there's nothing wrong with that. The question is, how do we build a system that allows and enables for this translation, even when the research starts, right? When the research starts, so that we can build in user centricity into the research, or somewhere along the timeline of the research. There are so many programs that try to train scientists to become entrepreneurs and so forth. It doesn't work, because scientists don't want to be entrepreneurs, But if you can come alongside them, but the direct answer to your question will be intermediaries like GRIC, who have developed this template and are engaging scientists one by one and saying this technology is great, but the problem you're trying to solve is this, and this is the person you're trying to solve the problem for. So I think intermediaries, I don't know how they are funded, but intermediaries that are supported to do this work will be the short answer to your question. Is that a question? My time is up? A question, okay.
With the point of view, we have the user, the need, and the empathy. So would there be an instant that because of the need, your user will be a very vast number or a very great number? So you limiting the user to a specific user will be a difficulty. As a researcher, what will you do, or how can you go about that?
So I think what you're saying is what a lot of innovators struggle with when they are trying to implement or commercialize their innovations, because they get caught up in it is for everybody, and so they don't even know where to start. So the argument here is that when you focus, you get out the door. Focusing makes you action oriented. And in business, you can have customer segments. You can have 5 customer segments, but there's nothing wrong with starting with customer segment 1 and then expanding to other customer segments. So the point here is not to say that you're going to rule out all the other customer segments. The point here is to be action oriented by starting with 1, so that your engagement with industry is easier. Yeah, that's the point. It's not that you're ruling out the other ones. I think there was a question, a hand over here as well. Yes, great. I love contributions.
Contribution with who translates the research better to the industry for them to appreciate it better. I think when you were giving your response, I was asking myself, who knows me better than I know myself? And I'm looking at it from the point of view that who knows the output of the research better than the one who conducted the research. And so, yes, Gordon, I understand that as researchers, sometimes we want to stay and bask ourselves excited in the findings we have. But I think that we need to also push ourselves better to learn that skill of being able to translate the research to the industries. And I think one of the things that I also clearly realize is that there's generally a gap when it comes to the intermediaries that do this translation. And so maybe somebody can take it up as an entrepreneurship venture and then maybe bask into it. I think GRIC is also doing a good job on that, and so maybe they can scale it up and then see how best we can find different spaces around it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point to say that researchers should learn the skill. But the point here is that it basically is like removing your shoes and stepping into another set of shoes to be able to do it. Very few people can do that, right? You have to leave all your biases at the door and take on this new hat. You know, you have to be able to switch your mind, you know, in a way that's not very natural. So people struggle with that. But of course, if people can take on the skill and also be able to do translation of their very complex research, why not? Yeah.
Yes, also to contribute to the issue of intermediaries to help with the translation. My name is Eunice Nate from the University of Cape Coast. I think that our public institutions are being encouraged to set up technology transfer offices, like the place where Ibrahim works, like where I work at the Technology Transfer Office of the University of Cape Coast. There's some in Koforidua Technical University and several other universities. And so you can contact them and they'll help you with the translation.
Yeah. It's a really good point. I actually forgot about TTOs. I think there's some research that was done, and I think there's only one patent that's registered at University of Ghana, right? You know, but a lot of these technology transfer offices, especially of the public universities, have existed for a long time. So there's something there. There's something there that's not working in terms of technology transfer offices doing this translation and actually, they what? Yeah, they become legal departments that do everything they can to prevent. Mike, please.
So I just wanted to say that filing a patent involves a legal process. And universities have legal offices that represent the university who have not had a lot of practice in this kind of filing. So a technical transfer office all by itself, without getting the approval of legal counsel, may not be able to establish a patent. Yeah. And so until it becomes a priority for the whole institution, not just the TTO, but from the vice chancellor to the legal department, etc., because it's a group effort to get a patent. Yeah. And then the question is the research really commercially viable to warrant the university spending all the cost in securing the patent? And when that is done, how is it going to turn into anything that becomes revenue for a university? Yeah. And so those are some of the questions that we need to answer to make it practical. But there are other things like consulting agreements where you hire a researcher who's done research to consult for your business and you pay them for the knowledge. So we see TTOs doing that. It's not a patent, but you are having technology transfer and the researcher is getting some benefit. And especially when the research it's not like you created something that is so revolutionary. It's just building on things that are already in the public knowledge. That can be a more cost-effective and practical way of commercializing. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I mean, it's all very true. But again, you know, when you look at the data, it doesn't support even the existence of TTOs at these universities. So we really need to work. I think this is why the work of GRIC and others is super important, to forge collaborations with TTOs and researchers to improve on commercialization. Thank you very much.
Shall we appreciate Professor Gordon Adumza of the Ashesi University? His presentation was on strengthening research uptake with focus on customer point of view. If you're just joining us online, this is the GRIC Annual Forum 2024 with the theme Strengthening Research Industry Collaboration for Sustainable Innovation and Development. We now move swiftly to the next segment of the program, which is presentation on research outputs and innovations. But to help us throw more light on this is Dr. Patricia Aboy from the CSIR College of Science and Technology and Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Shall we please appreciate Dr. Patricia Aboy? I think we can do it better whilst she takes her strides.
Good morning. The chairperson is not here yet, but the chairperson of the session, distinguished guests, industry stakeholders, policy makers, potential investors, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning once again. It is with great honor that I represent the CSIR College of Science and Technology, that is CCST, and the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, CIE, at this significant gathering, which brings together key players committed to advancing Ghana's innovation and research landscape. I bring you greetings from the president of CCST, as well as the director for the center, Professor Enchua Mensah, and the president is Professor Mark Appiah. This session, dedicated to the presentation of research outputs and innovations, is a vital step towards bridging the gap between research, industry, and policy. The CCST, at CCST, our mission is clear: to develop science, technology, and innovation solutions that drive socioeconomic transformation. Our vision is to be recognized as a world-class research-intensive institution, nurturing a new generation of scientists, entrepreneurs, and innovators who contribute meaningfully to Ghana's development agenda. The Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, CIE, complements this by fostering a culture of creativity and problem solving. We prioritize the commercialization of research, ensuring that knowledge generated within the academic and research settings is translated into practical applications that meet societal needs, solve pressing challenges, and create sustainable value. Today's session could not have come at a better time. Ghana faces critical challenges, from food security and energy sustainability to climate resilience and public health. These challenges demand bold, innovative, and actionable solutions that only research can provide. However, for research to achieve its full potential, it must transition from being knowledge confined to laboratories and publications, as has been said before, into viable products, services, and policies that directly impact people's lives. The innovations being showcased today exemplify this transition. They represent the collaborative efforts of researchers who have dedicated themselves to creating solutions with practical value for industry, society, and the global market. For this reason, our goal is simple but powerful: to inspire you, our industry leaders, policymakers, and investors, to see the untapped potential in these innovations and foster support for their uptake and commercialization. To industry stakeholders, These innovations offer pathways to enhancing productivity, improving market competitiveness, and driving sustainable growth. To policymakers, they represent data-driven, evidence-based solutions to craft impactful and forward-looking policies. To investors, they provide opportunities to achieve strong returns while advancing socially and economically beneficial outcomes. Research commercialization cannot happen in isolation. It requires robust partnerships between academia, industry, government, and investors. I encourage each of us here to explore the opportunities presented today with an open mind and a shared commitment to progress. Let us engage meaningfully, ask questions, identify where we can to support these innovations through funding, adoption, and policy alignment. As we dive into the presentations, I urge us all to see these research outputs not just as projects, but as opportunities. Opportunities to create jobs, solve problems, and enhance Ghana's global competitiveness. Together, we can shape a future where research fuels innovation and innovation drives sustainable development. Thank you for your attention and for your commitment to advancing Ghana's research and innovation agenda. And let's make this session a catalyst for transformative partnerships. Thank you.
Let us once again appreciate Dr. Patricia Aboy from the CSIR College of Science and Technology and the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. We now move swiftly to the presentations. We have two presenters, one from the CSIR Food Research Institute, and the other who is a co-founder and president, Sina Institute for Technology, and the founder for EcoChest Biosciences Limited and Zimi Consult Limited. So without further ado, shall we welcome Dr. John Edem Kongo from the CSIR Food Research Institute. I think we can keep clapping so that it gives him.
Good morning once again. So my name is John Edem Kongo, a research scientist from CSIR Food Research Institute. So this morning I'm here to present part of a project work that I did on the development of beetroot dark chocolate. This project was funded by the International Foundation for Science. Hopefully at the end of this presentation, we would have industry players show interest so we can upscale this product. So I'll be presenting on the physicochemical properties, the bioactive compound composition, and consumer acceptability of the beetroot dark chocolate. So chocolate, don't we love chocolate? Almost everybody here loves chocolate. Next time. And usually we think it's only the women and children who love chocolate. No. In my lab, I do conduct trainings on chocolate production. Just 2 weeks ago, we did a training program on cocoa processing and chocolate production. And then last week, we did another one on chocolate spread production. And the men who came, if you see the way they were eating the chocolate, we were even asking them to take some to their wives or to their kids, and they were like, no, I paid, I am doing the training, so let me enjoy the chocolate. So almost everybody loves chocolate, and we eat chocolate anytime, when we are happy and even when we are depressed. And why do we love chocolate so much? We love chocolate mainly because of that sensory pleasure we derive from chocolate. And then also chocolate evoke that emotions within us. When we are sad, as I said, and we take chocolate, we are able to overcome that sadness or that depression. But there's another reason why we consume cocoa products or chocolate, which maybe some of us are not aware of. And it's because of the potential health promoting properties of the chocolate. Cocoa contains these bioactive compounds, mainly the polyphenols and then the metal xanthanes, which research has shown to have positive effects on our health, especially with regards to cardiovascular health. So we consume chocolate products or cocoa-related products because of potential health. However, there is a very big but with regards to chocolate consumption. Even dark chocolate, which is considered very healthy, for most of the formulations, you could have about 50% of the recipe being sugar. So chocolate contains a lot of sugar. Even the dark chocolate, which is considered the healthier choice, contains a lot of sugar. How much more the milk chocolate and then the white chocolate? And we all know the problems associated with the consumption of sugar. So nowadays, we are trying to shift away from the consumption of refined sugar. So because of this, there is a need to replace the sugar in our chocolate, if not completely, at least partially, so that we can derive the full benefit of consuming these chocolate products. And if we have to do that, we need to use a food commodity which, one, is locally available, has low composition of these sugars, and also has a lot of nutrients that when we add to our chocolate, we will derive the maximum benefit that we are looking for. And the food commodity that readily comes to mind, or that came to my mind during the proposal writing, was the red beetroot. The reason is that this red beetroot is found in Ghana. We cultivate this beetroot in Ghana. And the second is that it contains low amount of sugars. And then the third, and then the most important point is, it is also loaded with a lot of bioactive compounds, such as the betalains and then the nitrite, which research has also shown to have positive effect on human health. So if we combine this beetroot to our chocolate, it means that we are actually promoting a very good food commodity, which is the chocolate. Okay. Unfortunately, this red beetroot is normally consumed as salads or juices, and in most cases as food colorant. There has not been any work done on adding this red beetroot to chocolate to improve upon the health promoting properties of the chocolate. So we thought that we could dry this red beetroot into powder and then replace the added sugar that we normally add to chocolate with this red beetroot, so that, one, we can diversify the utilization of this red beetroot powder, and then also reduce the amount of added sugar in our chocolate. So the main objective of this project was to incorporate the red beetroot powder into dark chocolate, and then study the effect of the red beetroot powder concentration, as well as the processing conditions on the bioactive compounds composition, the physicochemical properties of the chocolate, and then if consumers would actually accept this chocolate. So what did we do? We just got the red beetroot, washed them thoroughly, peel, slice, and then we spread them on a drying tray, and then we dried at 60 degrees for a period of 7 hours to drastically reduce the moisture content of the beetroot. And then after drying, we grind or we mill into powder, and then we sieved so as to ensure a very smooth powder for the chocolate production. So this is the red beetroot powder we have over there. And then we incorporated the red beetroot powder into our dark chocolate by replacing it with sugar. So we did 3 formulations. One, the normal dark chocolate without the beetroot. And then the second one, we removed 15% of the added sugar. And then the third one was we removed the sugar completely. So this formulation was a 70% dark chocolate. So 70% means that the cocoa component comprised was 70%, and then the remaining 30% was the sugar. So that is why we had the 0, 15, and then the 30. So the composition or the recipe with 30% beetroot means there was no added sugar. The one with 15% means 15% sugar, 15% beetroot powder. And then the 0 was the regular one with 30% sugar. And then we process this using the melanger. The melanger is just a small equipment which grinds the equipment. Normally, if you go to the industry, you would have several equipments to make this chocolate. But with the melanger, it combines about 3 processing steps into one and operates simultaneously. So we processed the chocolate at 5 hours, 14.5 hours, and then 24 hours, and then see which combination would give us the optimal or the best chocolate that we are looking for. Right, so I'll just present some of the findings. So the first one has to do with the moisture content. Chocolate and water don't go hand in hand. So if you're making chocolate, you need to have a chocolate product that has a very reduced moisture content. So you have to be very careful with the ingredients and then your processing condition. Looking at the graph, we could see that the addition of the red beetroot powder increased the moisture content of our chocolate, whilst the processing reduced the moisture content. So the longer you process, the more you reduce the moisture content of the final chocolate. But the more red beetroot powder you add, the more the moisture content goes up. And this is because the beetroot powder still had a high amount of moisture. Beetroot itself, the composition is about 80 or so % moisture, and we're able to reduce it from that 80 to about 8.6% moisture. So adding it to the chocolate, we expected it that definitely it would increase the moisture content of our dark chocolate. But the good thing is, for the recommendation is that for a good chocolate, the moisture content should be between 1 and then 1.5%. From the results we are seeing, even when you add 30%, when you replace all the sugar with the beetroot powder, the moisture content was still around 0.8%, which is below the standard. So that means it is okay, it is acceptable. You can store this chocolate without having any problem. One other quality parameter of chocolate is the particle size. You know, for a very good chocolate, you don't have to chew it. As soon as you place it on the tongue, it should melt on its own. So we determine the particle size of the chocolate to see if by adding the beetroot, it would influence the particle size of the chocolate. And here again, for a very good chocolate, the particle size should be 30 microns or below, so that as soon as you put it, it is noted that when the particle size is 30 microns or below, the tongue is not able to detect the particles, but when it's more than 30 microns, that is when the tongue is able to detect the particles. Here also, even though the the addition of the beetroot increased the particle size of the chocolate, they were still within acceptable range. And then the sugar content. We also analyzed the sugar content of the chocolate. And I'll just look at the sucrose and then the total sugars. So as we can see, addition of the beetroot increased the sugars, but they were still within acceptable range as compared to the ones without the beetroot. The ones without the beetroot are the 0 ones, and you can see that the total sugars were very high. But as we reduce or we replace the sugars with the beetroot, the sugar content were very low. Right. And then the bioactive compound that I was talking of there. So here we analyze the total polyphenols, we analyze the betalains, and then we also analyze vitamin C because we noticed that beetroot contained vitamin C. And here the results also show that addition of the beetroot increased these bioactive compounds in the dark chocolate. And then we did a consumer studies, acceptability test, to see if whether people would actually like this chocolate. And what we could see is that majority of the people rated the ones without the beetroot. They prefer the ones without the beetroot compared to the ones with the beetroot. And this is simply because for most of the people we used, they were tasting this beetroot dark chocolate for the very first time. So naturally, they would prefer the plain ones to the ones with the beetroot. However, the ones with the 15% replacement was also very much preferred. The overall acceptability was about 5.4. Whilst the one with the 30%, people did not probably enjoy it that much. And here again, too, it's because of the composition of the people we use. Most of them were young ones, between the ages of 20 to 39, with sweet tooth. So probably if we had used people above 50 years, they would go in for more of the ones with more beetroot powder done. So to conclude, we can say that we can replace the sugars or the sugar in dark chocolate either completely or partially with beetroot powder without compromising on the physicochemical properties. And by so doing, we would be able to improve upon the utilization of the beetroot powder and then also improve upon the health promoting properties of the chocolate. Okay. So we have published parts of this work in journals that are available online that we can read. And then we've also put everything together in a training manual form so that when people come around, we can easily transfer this knowledge to them. Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Doc. It is quite difficult to ask this whole presentation to be done in 10 minutes, but I think he's done so well. Let's give him a round of applause. So you'll take your seat. We will have another presentation, and then we'll take the questions together, if that's okay. So shall we welcome Dr. Andrews Kwesi Agbleke. 10 minutes.
Hello. Yeah, so I'm going to talk to you about research and innovation. And the goal of my talk is to highlight the importance of basic science, why you need to do basic science. So from today's talk, a lot of us are talking about commercialization. But commercialization is good. But the underlying fact of the underlying part of any commercialization is to do basic science, is to do the fundamentals, understand how the fundamentals work, and apply it. So I'm going to spend a lot of time talking to you about that and why it is important. Okay. So what makes you to commercialize something depends heavily on how you think about innovation. So here I'm just giving you a few examples of how technology are developed and how long it takes. So as a technologist, it took me 5 years to actually develop an assay that coupled how transcription, translation, and the chromosome state impact organismic development. If you look at live cell imaging, until now, you could not image a cell for more than 4 hours before the cells die. Now, cells can be imaged for about 48 to 3 days, 72 hours. And it's because we spent a lot of time developing that technology. That was almost half of my adult life, okay? And when it comes to the final part, I'm going to talk to you about SIT. And the SIT has taken us 15 years to develop these ideas. 15 years since 2009. And the idea is that it started with the fundamental question of how do we understand biology as a scientist. Then we move a little bit into understanding how to apply it, and then can we train the next generation of people, the next generation of scientists who can be able to develop that. So I'm going to go quickly through them, and then have we run out of? Okay. Yeah. So we started our research 15 years ago on one fundamental question, herbaria versus. So if you go to all the herbaria, what happens is you dry the leaves, you dry the leaves, and then you put them in a lot of cardboards, and you post it somewhere. When you are looking for it, you come and look at the dry leaf. So we decided to develop an image-based system to identify plants. So we go to the field, we collect plants, crops, weeds. If they are for drugs, we take everything. So far, we've done it for 600 plants. We even uproot the plant to look at the architecture of the root, because that is fundamental, the front and the back of the leaf. And I can tell you this research has helped us to discover how plants develop, because we took painful steps along the way to look at every plant and look at how the leaves and how the plant is growing. And I'll talk to you about how that worked. The second thing is this is a common system that everyone uses as to do an antimicrobial screening platform. Currently, we are working on this platform, and we want to make it a high throughput way, and also not just stop at the step where you say, okay, something is working. What is working? What is the mechanism? How does it work? Is it affecting the chromosomes or the DNA of the bacteria? Is it affecting cell membrane, cell wall? We are creating a platform to be able to discover, to work on that. And as I said, the last part of it is, if you take plant development, we know everything in the textbooks when it comes to germination. And we also know everything about how flowering takes place. In between the two, we don't know what happens to plant development. And for the first time, we have been able to solve that problem, how plant develop. And this is because we took our time to study this plant extensively in Ghana. And the cool thing about this plant is that as it grows, it changes the shape and the type of its leaves about 5 times during development. And it's able to, we can use that to predict growth and be able to explain what happens in plant. And the cool thing about it is it's a good predictor of how to study climate changes, because when it's very hot, it shifts to the left or to the right. And that is being able to predict the conditions that is prevailing at the time that it is growing. So we are studying that. So about halfway, maybe another 5 years ago, we started this research to document all the biological life that is in the sea. And if you go to most advanced countries, they have the submarine, they have boats, they have everything. So how do we identify and collect as many fishes and sequence them? And the only way to do it is that we started from Aplao in the Volta region all the way to the far west. And we go from fishermen to fishermen. We wait for them, they come fresh, we take the specimen, and then we take specimen, we take pictures. Again, I'm a microscopist, I'm an imaging guy. So we image everything, we sequence them, and then I would say currently we have the biggest database when it comes to the Atlantic Ocean, especially in the West Africa. Okay. And that project is still ongoing, and we are working on it. There's a small lag here. I have just 10 minutes, so I'm going to go through quickly. I do not know why. So the next project we have, which I will describe in details after this, is now all the things I've described to you now, there are opportunities to commercialize them. If you understand how plant develop and the processes the plant goes through in order to develop, you can use that to be able to advise farmers on how to grow their crops in such a way that they will get their yield faster than they currently get. And now we are looking at if you think of it like trimesters when you are developing, or even the ovulation processes, how hormones circulate. Plants are doing that, and we can use that system now to explain how plants are growing, and we can find a way to make plants grow faster. So we've been working on plants, fishes, insects, and a few years ago, we got involved in fibroid, and the reason is that fibroid affects predominantly blacks. It's a black disease. It doesn't affect whites as such. It doesn't affect Caucasians, and we have a publication on it. So we decided that we need to understand what happens with fibroid. So currently, what we are doing at the institute is we collect specimen when the women undergo surgery. Our goal is to do, look at the gene profile, to look at what genes are on and off, and then to be able to find a way to shrink it. So the idea is to grow it in the lab, and then do a 3D culture of it, like form the organelle, and then screen for mechanisms to understand. And the final piece, which is a small one, which we just started this year, and that is where the EcoChest is being built, is now we have a mechanism where we can actually detect different viruses and diseases. We can make our own test, and it works. And then we are building a software that can run on it and allow us to discover or to early detect diseases that affect both plants and animals. So we've started with the mpox. We've tested one we've done COVID to look at how can we detect it. We are also working on the swine flu and avian bird flu. And the idea is that if you have a system that works, it can be then packaged into something that can be commercialized. So, there's a lag, which I don't know why, but I think overall, my talk here is to tell you that research takes a long time. Basic science is painful, and nobody wants to fund basic science. But it is important that basic science is funded, and it doesn't have to be funded through the government or be funded through the industries. It has to be funded as a way of thinking about long term. What is our mission for the next 10 years, the next 20 years? What is our goal? Only we can do that. And just not, producing an output or having a result. We need to invest in training the next generation. So at the top, we organize workshops every year where we train teachers from high school level to university level on how to do DNA extraction. You'll be surprised how many teachers are teaching biology and they don't know how the DNA looks like. And somebody has to train them to let them be confident that when they are teaching, they can say, look, what is in that textbook? It can be done locally in Ghana, and somebody has to train them. We need to invest into that. We also have to invest in reversing the brain drain, get more people, more conferences. We organized an imaging cellular and chromosome dynamics conference. It was the first in Africa through FASEB. And if you look at the pictures, predominantly it's all people coming from outside. We need to train our own people to be able to feel confident and be part of those programs. And yes, at the higher level it's important, but the brain starts from somewhere, they say from year 5. So we are based in the Volta region, and the kids from GSS, they hold pipettes. We train them how to hold pipettes, do experiments. They're able to make colors from different plants in nature, and they do paintings with it. For us, that's a big excitement, be able to train those students to know that they can work with their hands and develop the innovations that are necessary. The last piece I would like to go on before the time is up, before I head out, is that funding for all this, we have international exchange, which I'll not go on. But if you look at the funding, we are predominantly funded through institutions from outside. And it is a little bit sad when you think of it, right? That people outside can see the value of why you need to train people and to build things that takes a long time than people within your own country. And the reason is it doesn't look like it will make a quick money today. There's a quick exchange of money. So it is a burden on all of us, and I hope industry is here. We have academia here. I'm sure academia has been crying over this for a long time, so I'm not going to be weeping here. CSR are well aware of this issue, but it takes a lot. Collaborations, as we said, is important. We have been successful because we collaborate with a lot of universities, and we keep on building more collaborations. And locally, we also engage the universities and partner with them, because this is an ecosystem that has to be built, and people have to look at the far end. I would like to conclude by saying that at the end of it all, there's only one fundamental thing that we need to do. One, we need to consume. Everything is there, you can see, but I would like to conclude by saying it's not just translating science. We need to be able to consume science. Until we're able to consume science, the translation will not be as viable as we wish for it to be. Thank you. And I always like to thank my team, because we are able to achieve all this because a lot of the work is being done by students and people with bachelor level. We train them and we work together, and we're able to do all this cool stuff. I don't do much of the work. Thank you.
And where is my other good friend, Doc? Please come. And it is now time for us not to shoot them with questions, but to ask some friendly questions. And please, we have 20 seconds, so go straight to the point. 20 seconds. No beating about the bush. Go straight to the point. And that would allow us to take 1, 2, you see, so our seconds have dropped to 15 because there are more hands. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. To CSR, now with the chocolates that you did, the presentation is good, but I think we can expand to other varieties, pineapple, cinnamon, and other products. And have you also done any research on fusing this with the beverage, chocolate drinks?
Okay.
In that area, have you done so? Because when we travel outside, in South Africa alone, we can count 31 different products of the same chocolate on one shelf. Okay. Ghana, we don't have that. So what have you done towards that so that the industry can pick up and then also put it into production?
Thank you very much. Let's take the next question. There was a hand here.
Thank you. I wanted to know how far you've gone with the research on the fibroid.
Thank you. There were 2 hands here, please. And after the 2, then you can respond. So that we...
Yeah, mine goes to the chocolate maker. So, where you got to with your research, do you think you have concluded, or there is still something you need to do further? Because you are already training people, you've developed training manual for people to be trained, but do you think you have arrived and the chocolate is ready for the market from what you have done so far?
And the last one.
Thank you. So, to the chocolate, you did mention that it had some bioactive compounds. I had wanted to know if the beetroot was able to maybe heighten the effects of those compounds, or do they have any synergies to improving the health benefits?
Thank you. So your response,
Okay.
Doc?
All right. So with the first one, yes, we have also conducted studies using the baobab powder. And we are currently starting another one with mushroom. So we are drying the mushroom into powder, and then we add the mushroom to the chocolate. But with regards to the beverage, we've not started any research on that yet. Hopefully, we'll be able to do that soon. And then with your question, if we think we've finished with the research, not really, because we are yet to do shelf life studies with regards to this beetroot dark chocolate. We need to know how long it will stay on the shelf so that when you make them, they can really stay long. But with regards to the trainings, what we are training people on now are the normal chocolates. Yes. And then the bioactive compounds. Yes, the beetroot really contributed significantly to increasing the bioactive compound composition of the beetroot dark chocolate. Yes. But we need to do further studies to see if they won't have any antagonistic effect, or yes, we need to do more. But that one will be a clinical studies, which is above my level. Yes.
All right. So concerning the fibroid, yeah. So currently we have about 3 hypotheses that we are testing, and one is at the DNA level, the other one is at the protein level, and then the last one is environmental. And my experiment I want to run is not a very nice experiment, so I don't want to talk about it now, but it's a very there's an experiment we need to run, which will help us find a way of stopping it, at least to manage it. And I think we have an idea. We just have to run the experiment. I'm trying to get the Ghana Health Services, the ethical approval, before I can run it. But we have to really take the samples from women and then prove that that is the problem. Well, it might work or it might not work. But at least, I think some of it is environmental. And I think it's the environmental and the endometrium within the uterus. So I'm trying to find a way to get to that place and then find a solution to it. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you. We pray that you find a way to get to that place and get a solution to it. And also, we hope that the CSIR Food Research Institute will also be very strong on the intellectual property aspects, because what you don't own, you cannot sell. So if you're talking about commercialization, we should think first ownership as we are co-creating and co-ideating. Thank you so much. Shall we give them another round of applause for such, can I use the word, beautiful presentations in science. We move on swiftly to the next, not necessarily in chronological order of the program, but of essence, the keynote speech. And it is to be delivered by none other than the CEO of Soko Technologies, who happens also to be the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly help me to welcome none other than Chonam Cleans Akpelo. I hope I pronounced it well.
Good morning. Sorry, good afternoon. Yes, how are we? I've seen that you guys have to endure a lot of speeches and conversations. I also have a lot of speeches, so please prepare for more. In fact, that's why you brought yourself. Yes, so please allow me to acknowledge the chair of the steering committee and also Amma for her steering leadership. Very impressive. We in AGI, we admire you a lot. We will not be telling you, but we see your work. And on a lighter note, I would like to also celebrate the immediate past speaker, Dr. Andrew Sagbleker. He's a highly celebrated scientist And it's important for me to disclose that we have a relationship with my brother. And so when we were in the university together, I was patching him in Common Hall and sharp. And the good thing is that the good thing is that most times I have the bed to myself because he's always studying. So in the evening, I'll carry the books, follow him to the library, leave the books there, and then I'll go sleep, and then he'll be studying. No wonder when he finished, he became the best graduating student. And his record is still there in Legon, I'm told. So now to my speech, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to stand before you today at this pivotal gathering of the Ghana Research and Industry Collaborative Annual Forum 2024. This year's theme, Strengthening Research Industry Collaboration for Sustainable Innovation and Development, reflects the pressing need for Ghana to harness its intellectual, industrial, and financial capital for transformative growth. We in AGI would like to commend the organizers sincerely for this forum. Today's discussion are not just about ideas, but also about solutions. Practical, actionable steps to bridge the persistent gap between research institutions and the industry that can transform their findings into impactful innovations. Ladies and gentlemen, the ambition to transition Ghana into a knowledge-driven economy is commendable. Considering the advent of the fourth industrial revolution, where knowledge and technology intersect to drive growth and development, it is crucial that we have an intentional approach to using data to drive decisions and strategy in all spheres of national life. Yet data reveals that only a fraction of research outputs find its way to commercial and industrial application. Researchers must therefore realize that their work as researchers does not end merely upon the publication of research findings. They should take on the mandate of ensuring that their work gets into the right hands for it to be applied. It is only when research finds are applied that society gets to benefit. So which is why AGI is highly concerned about the continuous gap between research work and industry. We feel that there has to be that middle ground that allows us to consume research finding in a way that is useful for industry. So to this end, I urge researchers to be interested in initiatives that advance the cause of applied research. The mechanism for promoting research must not only focus on generating knowledge, but also converting it into real-world solutions that contribute to industrial growth and national development. The role of key ministries in the research industry ecosystem cannot be overemphasized. Collaboration among the Ministry of Education, Trade and Industry, Science, Environment, and Technology are essential. Each ministry has a distinct yet interconnected role in fostering a research industry collaboration. So number one, the Ministry of Education must focus on aligning the National Research Fund's priorities with industry needs while championing technical education and innovation hubs in the universities. Number two, the Ministry of Trade and Industry must incentivize industries to adapt locally developed innovations, facilitating market entry for research outputs and creating value chains that prioritize indigenous solutions. Then, for the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, they should emphasize the framework for intellectual property, protection and environmental sustainability, and technology transfer to ensure that research outputs are both impactful and ethical. Together, these ministries must co-create a policy ecosystem that fosters seamless collaboration and amplifies Ghana innovation potential. Ladies and gentlemen, innovative financing is a critical enabler in bridging the gap between research and industry. A thriving partnership between the research community and industry requires funding beyond traditional models. We must embrace innovative financing mechanisms to support the full life cycle of research and commercialization. Catalytic capital is one of such solutions designed to de-risk early-stage research projects and attract additional funding from private and institutional investors. Blended finance, which combines public and private funding, can also play a transformative role in addressing funding gaps. So here, organizations like Impact Investing Ghana are instrumental. As a leading advocate for impact-focused investment, Impact Investing Ghana is uniquely positioned to unlock private capital for research commercialization by leveraging its expertise in mobilizing catalytic capital, supporting sustainable ventures, and de-risking investment in high-impact areas. The organization can help bridge the financing gap between research and industry. Imagine a fund supported by Impact Investing Ghana, designed to co-finance innovative projects emerging from GRIC. Such a model would unlock catalytic capital and provide technical assistance, mentorship, and access to markets, ensuring that the Ghanaian research is not only developed, but scaled to benefit industries and communities. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, an exemplary initiative in this space is the GRIC Industry Brief Sessions. These sessions provide platform for researchers to connect directly with industry stakeholders, fostering partnership that facilitates technical support, funding, and market access. Through these sessions, researchers gain a better understanding of industry needs, while industrial discoveries are made for practical solutions ready for commercialization. GRIC's commitment to these engagements is a testament to its strategic approach to bridging the research industry divide. Scaling the industry brief sessions nationally could revolutionize how academia and industry interact in Ghana, making it a cornerstone of our innovative ecosystem. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the time to act is now to unlock the transformative potential of research industry collaboration. We must commit to the following. Number one, operationalizing key funds. The National Research Fund of the Ministry of Education and the CSIR Research Fund must prioritize industry-aligned research and incentivize partnerships with private sector players. Number two, innovative financing models. Catalytic capital and blended finance mechanism must be embraced, with Impact Investing Ghana leading the charge in mobilizing resources. Scaling GRIC initiatives. The industry brief session must be expanded and integrated into national innovation strategies, enabling researchers and industries to co-create solutions. Number four, the last one actually, strengthening ecosystem synergies. So ministries, academia, and industry must collaborate in a more effective, creating an environment where research outputs naturally flow into industrial applications. I can affirm that the Association of Ghana Industry, the AGL, will be committed to partaking in this endeavor. As we look towards Ghana's Vision 2057, let us imagine a nation where every research output contributes to a thriving industry, creating jobs, improving livelihoods, and driving sustainable development. This is not a dream. It is a possibility. It is possible, provided we take deliberate steps today. Let us seize this moment to innovate, collaborate, and transform. Together, we can build a Ghana where research fuels industry and industry propels national progress. I thank you. God bless.
Thank you very much. Shall we give him a round of applause? Getting to the end, I think I heard a slogan. This is not a dream. And Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. Anyway. I know you're expecting me to say the other one, but let's move on quickly. If you just join us online, this is the GRIC Annual Forum 2024 with the theme Strengthening Research Industry Collaboration for Sustainable Innovation and Development. And we are now at a very important segment right after the keynote speech given to us by the Accra Regional Chairman of the AGI. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to get to the Collaborative Action Plan 2025 and beyond. As Julius will say, I didn't come here to eat jollof. This is now the real crust that we need to put in our best, the data, our experience, and information. Let us, with a round of applause, welcome Julius Lamte, who is a Senior Research and Policy Officer and the Secretariat Lead for GRIC. Julius.
Thank you very much. Prof. Chair, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my very own CEO. So this session is on the Ghana Research and in the Industry Collaborative Action Plan. So before we set up the GRIC, there was an action plan that was done, and this was done with the actors in the ecosystem. So this included researchers or research institutions. We also had business associations. We also have tertiary institutions. We also have development partners. And so based on the discussions that evolved, we had this action plan. But from the speech shared by the Prof. Chair and also Amalate, the main goal of GRIC is to bridge the gap between research and industry. And then here, the rationale is that there are several research works that are idle, that are lying on the shelves, but we are not finding innovative ways to put them onto the market. And so the goal of the collaborative is basically to facilitate collaboration. Then we also want to collate industry research needs and existing relevant this research. Then we also connect research and industry for action, enabling research financing, also research commercialization, and building connections within the wider ecosystem. So for this part, we would all have to review whether the goal for the collaborative is still relevant or not. So we had 4 main actions. One is to secure commitment from all stakeholders and also follow up on implementation of the action plan. Then the second action is to understand the research needs of industry and how researchers could better collaborate to meet these needs. Then the third one is to collaborate to make researchers concentrate on the needs of industry. Then the fourth is to collaborate to create this visibility of research that have been carried out by researchers and also facilitate collaboration. So for this part, I'm glad that we have representative from the Ghana, the National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, also from AGI, and then also from the Food and Beverage Association of Ghana. So this is very dear to us that we have your inputs in planning for next year. So we move straight into the key actions and what we've been able to achieve. So the text in the red are the updates, and then the text in the black are the actions that were to be achieved. So one is to secure buy-in from MESTI, and which the Ghana Innovation and Research Commercialization Center is part, and I'm glad that the head of the center is here. He joined us for the morning session. So Christopher Latte, he's the director for the Ghana Research and Innovation Center. Please show him some love. Then we also had the second action point as to secure buy-in from 5 large institutions and also associations in there. So here we have the Private Enterprise Federation, and then the Ghana Association of Banks, who are represented on the steering, but we also have them actively represented at the subcommittees. So in there we have AGI, the GNCCI, and also Jospon group of companies. Then we have to secure the buy-in from 4 donor agencies and foundations that fund research. So currently we have Eurocham that is represented on the steering. The plans are advanced to engage the Global Affairs Canada, USAID Ghana Seed Project, and then the others. So as part of our collaborative action plan, you'll share input with us, key institutions that we need to engage. Then the fourth one has to do with the strategic guidance and also feedback. So here we do quarterly engagements. Then the second action is to understand the research needs of industry and how researchers could better collaborate to meet these needs. And one key challenge that we find is that when you approach businesses or the business associations to share their research needs with us, it's not forthcoming. So you have to follow up here and there. So at this meeting, we would appreciate that the rep from AGI, the rep from the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and also FABAC would share those relevant research areas for us to consider for next year. So here, we have to engage every 6 months, but what we did was to have quarterly engagements. And here, the ask is, do we need to continue the quarterly engagements? Then also to share research needs with industry every 6 months. Here we have instituted the GRIC in the industry brief session, which is done every month. And then also have policy brief sessions. So this goes for the industry brief sessions that we hold. And then we also have the follow-up with partners. Sorry. Hello, please help me. Okay, so we have the third action point, which basically has to do this collaborate to make researchers concentrate on the needs of industry. Here, the goal is to drive education for researchers on industry needs in various sectors. So here, the call to have the industry brief template is one of the means that we would want to use to ensure that any research being done addresses the needs of the industry, using the point of view as shared by Dr. Adumja. Then we also to drive education for industry players, government, and also donors to support funding research in these areas. Then also create platform for sharing research on identified areas by industry. Here we have the GRIC platform, where currently we have about 6 translated versions. But then the plan is that by end of year, we want to have about 60 translated in the industry brief the research on the platform. Then we also have the call to drive advocacy for government and also research partners to set up fund to support researchers based on the priorities of industry. And so here we have signed an MOU with MESTI, and then we are also looking at ways to have innovative financing that would support this goal. And here, the approach that we want to use via the GRIC industry brief session and also leveraging on the technology transfer office as a service would be the approach to do this. Then the fourth action that we had was to collaborate to create visibility on research carried out by researchers and also facilitate collaboration between industry donors and also policymakers. So here, the goal is to build online database of researchers, areas of their research, and also contact details. So this is done on the GRIC platform. And so here I would ask that if you have not joined or created an account on the platform, please would ask you to do so ASAP. And then also increase visibility of existing and also new research. So basically, we are using the GRIC platform and then also the industry brief sessions to do that. Then the final one is to establish a link on IGH. So the reason why we had IGH was that it's the lead or the agent that initiated this field building approach. But then we'd also want to have other institutions have the GRIC platform disconnected. And so this has been done, and then we want to engage other business associations and also other institutions. Then we also have the fourth action plan, which is to create a channel for industry players and also policymakers to send their research needs and also research questions to build the roster. So this is what we are doing by engaging in the industry associations and also businesses. So that is being done on a periodic basis. And then also to have a collaborative annual forum. So this annual forum is where we would want to agree and then be able to allow researchers to present this in their presentation or research briefs. Then the last part, which is to publish an annual research focus and industry needs. Yeah, we have collated them, but we've not been able to have an annual publication that outlines the key areas or key priorities of the industry stakeholders. So based on these actions, we would want to break into groups or have a breakout where each group would basically look at these activities under each of the action and then discuss, are these enough, are these important, what can we improve, what should be maintained, are there the partners that should be engaged to strengthen the work of GRIC. Same also for the action 2. So are we to engage every 6 months? Are we to engage quarterly? In terms of the industry needs, what will be the best approach for us to know the needs of industry? So if I go to AGI, if I go to FABAC, as in the Food and Beverage Association of Ghana, if I go to Association of Small Scale Industries and the likes, how are we able to get their needs? And then also, how do we strengthen the industry brief sessions? So these are the activities that we have for each of the actions. And then respectfully, since we have sat for far too long, we would want to break into groups. And so maybe we can start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then all the ones would go to one side, the twos will go to one side, then the 3. So respectively, let me start from my right. And so please, you are number 1, 1, then number 3, 1. Gentlemen, please, we are going row by row. Okay, 1, okay, 2, okay, yeah, Doc, 4, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, no, she, 2, 3, 4, okay, 1, 2, okay, Chairman, 3, okay, 4, 4, yes, 4, please, you are 1, okay, 2, 3, Daniel, you are 4, then please 1, 2, 3, then 4, 1, 2, Ima 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, all right. So please, all the ones, please come here. Okay. Okay. All right.
Thank you so much, Julius. I just wanted to add a little bit of color for the discussion and to say a big thank you to Julius and the Secretariat for all the hard work. It's not easy getting business and researchers to do things together. I remember the very first meeting, the researchers said it was too short, and the business people said it was too long. And we realized then that they're just two different cultures, even the details of the minutes. And it took a long while and experimenting to figure out that the best way to get businesses to want to uptake research is to do targeted sessions. So if a researcher has done research on cocoa, then you invite only those interested in research on cocoa to the session. So you invite Cocoa Board, World Cocoa Foundation, people who are produce buyers, etc. And it was very targeted, but it took us about a year. Now, on the other side, so that now there's a system. We get a researcher, we sit down with a researcher, and they map all the various industries their research may be applicable to. We reach out to the associations. The communications team even goes on Instagram and Facebook and finds out who are the leading companies in that industry. And then we write to them and invite them to this session. So that is beginning to pick up now, where the businesses come, they are engaged, it's relevant. Now, to get industry to share research needs, that's not happening. When we go to AGI, AGI is an association. So it can tell you on a macro level what the broad needs are and trends, but they can't tell you very, very specific issues for a particular industry that a specific researcher in CSIR may be working on. And we've tried surveys, none of the businesses answered. And we've tried different things, so we are not getting a flow of research questions. We are getting a good supply of research that has been done, existing research, and we are connecting that to industry. We're still trying to figure out, is there a way to make it more of a dialogue so that businesses can say, I have this problem and I think research could solve it. So as you sit in your groups, think about it and let's brainstorm and see if there are other channels. And before Nana left, he said we should do a TV program. And maybe there are other things that will get businesses now to begin to say, oh, I could go to a university, I could go to CSIR, etc. So I just wanted to add that.
Sure, thank you very much.